So hey guys, it's Tammy with Art by Tammy Lassiter. Here we are at the end of our project for our glass and resin pineapple. So today we're going to be adding our resin to this piece. This morning when I woke up, I decided to add a couple extra pieces of different types of glass. Added some different types of vase fillers, a green iridescent, flat-backed piece, and then also some clear acrylic flat back pieces as well, mixed into the leaves of the pineapple. I believe I got them both from either Hobby Lobby or Michael's. So I have mixed a clear cast resin. It's a two-part resin with a ratio of 1:1. I've mixed a total of 6 ounces of resin. And you want to mix extremely thoroughly. I usually mix anywhere from 3 to 4 minutes, making sure that I really do scrape the sides of the cup and the bottom of the cup to make sure that all of the elements and the 2 different elements of the two-part resin are thoroughly mixed together. Leaving that not mixed very thoroughly would create problems with your resin and having places of stickiness where they're not able to cure. So just take your time. It doesn't look like it here, but you really want to take your time in the mixing. Resin generally creates air bubbles, and the faster you mix it, the more air bubbles that you will get in it. So just take your time. Here on hyperlapse, it's actually hard to see exactly how slow I'm mixing. You'll notice a slight difference in the clarity of the resin when you're mixing it, when it's almost ready to pour. Okay, so now I'm just going to take my stir stick and I'm going to drizzle it over the crushed glass areas of my pineapple, making sure that I cover every area, and I just go right over the top and right over those flat backed vase filler beads and onto the crushed glass that we added yesterday. And I'm just taking my time and making sure that I get everything covered. Now what will happen here is that the resin will seep down into the layers of glass, and that will help it to adhere to. What will happen is that it will help it to make sure that the glass under it is being completely covered by the glass and that everything is adhering to the canvas. So now we're going to move on to our leaves, and what I'm doing is I'm making sure that I'm running my stir stick over each of the edges of each of the concaved leaves that I have standing up on their edge. And what this does is it strengthens the glass and it dulls down that edge somewhat so that you're protecting anyone who may come in contact with the piece as well. And you're protecting the piece of art. Make sure that you get up underneath of those concave areas of glass, those leaves, and also the crushed glass that we glued down yesterday underneath of it. All of that needs to be covered in the resin as well. It's quite tricky, and you really got to pay attention here because there are so many areas with crushed glass under it, and you just need to make sure that everything has been thoroughly covered. Now through this process, you want to make sure that you're wearing your personal protective equipment. You want to at least wear gloves and a mask to protect yourself. If you do not have a respirator mask, then you need to have a very well ventilated area. Resin does have toxic fumes and can cause some lung issues if you're not careful. So I'm just adding leftover resin that I have in my cup onto the canvas itself, and any of it that has flowed out from the glass. I'm just dispensing around the canvas, making sure that I have consistent coverage throughout. And I generally like to have the edges of my canvas covered in resin. It's a personal choice, but I just like to see that as a finished project. So I'm just going to go around now towards the end and use what leftover resin I have and cover my edges. And I will come back about every 15 minutes or so and make sure that I have wiped those edges, as any resin that continues to move on the or from the canvas will leave drip marks if you're not careful. So you want to make sure that you kind of babysit this for the first 3 or 4 hours. After your resin is all on, you want to take a heat source of some kind. You can take a lighter, a butane lighter, or a heat gun, and just quickly go over your canvas. Don't get too close, and don't sit in one position too long. The reason why you do that is to try to get rid of some of those air bubbles that were created. And you can do that, about every 15 minutes for the first, I'd say for the first 30 minutes to an hour. And you just want to make sure that you're keeping an eye on things pretty closely. Your resin does shift and move for a period of time, and you want to make sure that you've protected your surface underneath before you get started in pouring your resin. Thank you so much for joining me, guys. I hope you've enjoyed this. I've enjoyed having you here. Be sure to follow me.